Should I explain brown dwarfs? Anyway, cis people's seemingly inexhaustible capacity for oblivious neglect and casual cruelty tempt some trans people to write them off, but I cannot quite bring myself to do that. I totally respect it when fellow trans people say stuff like, "Die cis scum," because we have every right to do that. Every right to be this angry. It's maddeningly frustrating that the overwhelming majority of cis people have no idea what we're dealing with. Even most sympathetic, well-meaning cis people are clueless. They think that as long as we're not being chased down the street by mobs of rednecks, then we must be fine. And if I hear one more person say, "But this is Austin," it's easiest to fool yourself into believing that a city is liberal if you're white, straight, and cisgender. Remove one or two of those factors and you begin to see places like Austin for the bad bill of goods they really are. Call cis people on this and they offer the most pathetic qualifier I've ever heard. Well, it is better than the rest of Texas. Such an abysmally low bar is no comfort when you're a painter who can't get into a gallery, a licensed massage therapist who can't get a spa gig, a human being who draws ire for politely correcting misgendering. I'm reminded every single day that I am hideous and wrong, and that no one wants what I have to offer. Anything I have to offer either personally or professionally. Indeed, so much for your notions of professionalism. You say it shouldn't matter what I look like or how I identify, especially when it comes to employment. But until you, yes, you cis people, make an actual effort to change this, the reality will continue to be that it does make a huge, glaring difference for the disproportionate numbers of trans people facing things like chronic under- and unemployment. Obviously, not every trans person's problems are identical, with a range as broad as the looming threat of physical assault and murder for so many trans women of color. Too wildly overprivileged Republican Caitlyn Jenner having trouble deciding what to wear. These extremes emphasize that, in a way, there are as many different trans issues as there are trans people, with us coming out and transitioning from a basis of widely varying backgrounds. We must prioritize the physical safety of those trans people in the most immediate danger at those intersections of race, gender, and class. But doing so isn't somehow taking anything away from everybody else. Human rights are not a zero-sum game. So we trans people are depending on you, cis people, to help us keep our collective head above water. As great and tough as it might be to fix everything ourselves, the reality is that we cannot do this alone. Even if we could somehow all be perfectly out, perfectly networked, and perfectly in solidarity, there still wouldn't be enough of us to change things on our own. At the risk of sounding defeatist, I refuse to follow such a statement with trite pragmatism, implying that we should kiss up to cis people, even when they're lazy, lousy allies. So this is all a bit of a nasty, conflicting mess, and will remain so until cis people make a deliberate, conscious effort to change that. This is up to you. When Leelah Alcorn wrote the words "fix society" shortly before she committed suicide exactly 1 year ago, she was addressing you, cis people. Remember that. She said, "My death needs to mean something. And those of us left behind need the chance to make our lives mean something."